peace, love, and wisdom to all who click this message. In this message, we're dealing again with the Yoruba and the Orisha. We have to understand, as African theologians and as just theologians in general, we're going to have to start to give credit to the mythos or mythology of ancient Kemet and Africa, all of Africa. And as black theologians and researchers, we can't just rely on the research of Egypt, as the white theologians and the white philosophers call it. The correct name would be Kemet. We can't just rely on the history and mythology of Kemet to teach us about the whole continent of Mother Africa or Al-Khebulan. So we have to deal with all of the mythos that is surrounding this great, impactful continent. Now, we talked about in the first part of the Orisha and the Yoruba how the Christian theologians and the white philosophers even admit to using some of the aspects of the Orisha gods in their creation of Christianity, and the Arabs in their creation of Islam, or the original Sufi, that the Moors, the black philosophers, and the black knights who were the Moors who came from Arabia into Africa, into the Horn of Africa, and into Spain. But talking about the Yoruba and the Orisha, we're dealing with gods like Aja, Aje, Egungun, Eshu or Elegua, Ebeji, Oba, Obatala, Ogun, Oshun, Oduduwa, Olekun, Oramila, Oshunmare, Oya, Shakpana, Shengo, and Yimiya. Okay? So we're dealing, and Olekun is a form of Yimiya. So we're dealing with a deep and a rooted mythos or mythology that pops up in every religion now. And we showed the proof of this in the first one, when we talked about the creation story of the Yoruba and how Obatala comes down with permission from Olorun and begins to build Efe, which is the earth. And then we go and we look and we come house and we see Obatala go into the ground, and Obatala gathers the clay with the black cat, comes back up and builds man. And Olorun, when Obatala is drunken, comes down and breathes life into the beings of clay that Obatala has created. But then we go to the Bible in Daniel 2:43. It says, as the toes of the feet were partly of iron, and Ogun is the god of iron and the god of all metals, and partly of pottery, so some of the kingdom will be strong, and part of it will be brittle. And in that you saw the iron mixed with the common clay, that they will combine with one another in the seed of men, but they will not adhere to each other, even as iron does not combine. So we got to look at this. How is it that Ogun, the son of Yimiya and Olorun, or Yimiya and Obatala, is the god or the Orisha of metals, okay, and the god of war? Well, then we look in Daniel 2:43, and they're speaking of this iron, and they're speaking of the clay when Obatala goes in the ground and makes these shell clay beings, and Olorun comes down and Obatala's drunken slumber and breathes the life into the shell. So we have to deal with the mythos of the ancient world and not just Egypt or Kemet. We look into the 2 Chronicles 3:5. Now, these are the things when Solomon laid for building the house of God, and the greater house he covered in cypress wood, which he overlaid with fine gold, and set there on palm trees and chains. Well, let's look at this. In the ancient mythos creation story of the Yoruba and the Orisha, we see how Obatala hangs the chain from the north end of the sky of heaven, from the high, and comes down to the firmament below and begins to build Efe, or earth. Well, this gold chain is spoken of in 2 Chronicles 3:5. It speaks of Solomon. Then, these things when Solomon laid for building the house, which he overlaid with fine gold, and set thereon palm trees and chain. We know that Obatala planted the palm nut in the ground of Efe, and up came the palm trees. So we have to look at this. How is the African religions of voodoo and the African religion of the Yoruba being demonized so much. Every movie that you see is when they go back into the root. If you watch a horror movie or a UFO movie, when they go back into the root of the alien or the monster or the demon, it's always African or Egyptian. Why is that? What are they trying to say? We're challenging you to come with your knowledge and prove that what we're teaching our people is wrong. Okay, so we're dealing with the Yoruba, but we're going to specifically deal with Oduwa, who is Obatala, and we're going to deal with Yemoja, and we're going to deal with African alchemy, or the ancient mind science of Africa, the Yoruba. So it's not just a mythology, okay? We're dealing with the article, or we're dealing with a book, some notes from a book. The book is called The Mythology of the Yoruba Religion, and it's written by Oba Ekun. So we're going to deal with this book. In the book, Oba Ekun says of Oduwa, who is Obatala, he is the first inhabitant of earth. It would be through him the earth would mold its round shape today. Oduwa or Obatala is earth. In the start, it was only gases and fog. Now from the gas and fog, we have earth. So we're dealing with science. Before there was ever any true structure or true matter that made solid structure, we were dealing with composite gases such as hydrogen, oxygen, gases that were not truly making up composite shapes that you can touch, tangible things. We're dealing with the pre-existence of man when we're talking about the Yoruba mythology. We're dealing with ancient alchemy, and we're going to prove it. So then we have to talk about, if you have earth, that's the first element. You have 4 elements in alchemy. You have earth, fire, water, and air. Okay? Then you have the 5th element, which is the mind. The 5th element is the gold. That is what you're taking the elements of those 4 and trying to turn them into gold or the highest mind, which is the 5th element. If you watch the movie The 5th Element with Bruce Willis, they give a pretty radical and mythological type of story of alchemy. So that's a good one to watch. So we're dealing with African alchemy, the Yoruba and the Orisha. So now we're going to talk about water. Well, in the Yoruba mythos or the Yoruba pantheon or the Yoruba Orisha, water is Yembo. The god is Yembo. Once water was created, so was Yembo, Oduwa's wife or Obatala's wife. Yembo is Lukum, means mother of the water, the planet, and the human race. As she was created, so were formed the great oceans, rivers, waterfalls, lakes, as well as the rain. Her birth also brings love, marriage, and the creation of human life. So we're dealing with alchemy. We're not dealing with some demon science or demon craft magic that the spook teachers, with the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, that the spook teachers will try to demand our religions. We'll try to make our religions, even though they got the aspects of their gods from our religion, seem primitive, seem savage. But it's alchemy. They say when water was created, so was Yembo. Yembo is water. Don't get confused by the name. Water and earth. Those are your first 2 elements. So you have to come and open up your mind because we're dealing with alchemy. So we already have Obatala, which is earth. We already have Yembo, which is water. Okay. So now Yembo is 2 forms. Okay, or a facet. It's called in the Yoruba. And at night, she becomes Nana Baruku, or the moon, which is one of her facets or identities. During this facet, she becomes mysterious and mystic. Her body is elevated to the heavens and lights the planet with her majestic light. We're dealing with the moon in alchemy. The moon is a duality of the sun. You need the moon in alchemy to bring out the sun, or the highest truth, the highest light, the highest mind. You need the moon. The moon is the mother. So we're dealing with some heavy stuff, if you can follow, because we're not dealing with some demon magic religion that the white theologians for years in their cartoons, their movies, their motion pictures, they've made voodoo and Yoruba seem to be demon religions. We're challenging you to come with your knowledge and intellectual dialogue, and we will discuss these mishaps that you've allowed in your history. Tell us that we are telling our people the wrong history, and we will sit down and we will speak with you intelligently. But we're dealing right now with African alchemy, we're dealing with the Yoruba, and we're dealing with the Orishas. So we have to go and see what Oduduwa turned into Obatala. Elegua became afraid of the changes in Oduwa. And Elegua is Eshu. Eshu is what the modern theologians now would call Pan, or the connection between the earth and the gods, Hermes. This is the type of aspects that they've taken from Ishu and Elegua and put into their god. But then they make Ishu and Elegua seem like demons. So we have to deal with this. So Elegua became afraid of the changes in Oduwa, or Obatala. Obatala is Elegua's father, but before he was Obatala, he was Oduwa. He could not believe what his eyes were seeing. Oduwa started to tremble from head to toe. Elegua saw Oduwa's spirit. He saw his father's spirit rise toward the sky, and another spirit entered Oduwa's body. So Oduwa became known as Obatala. What would happen when Oduwa became known as Obatala? Follow, because we're still dealing with alchemy. Oduwa had been like Olodumare, who is the main substance. This would be what melanin or a high chemical compound is what Olodumare would be. Had been like Olodumare on earth. But from now on, Oduwa's place was taken by Obatala. More paternal, more human, more furious, and he would enforce all the laws in the kingdom. Elegua understood that the transformation taking place in his father would change the kingdom's destiny forever. Obatala, judge, Firi, head of the Yoruba, after Oduwa. This is the instance when Obatala, a Yanguna, or furious warrior, was born. What are we talking about? We're talking about war. After you have earth, after you have water, and you have the substance, Olodumare, that brings it all together, and you have the connection, Elegua, that connects it to the mind from the body. Well, then you have man. Because if you have mind, you have man. If you have mind, you have universe. We're going to go into that. Now, Oduwa became Obatala, the furious warrior. This is war. You have the creation of man, then you have war. War is an element. We must understand this. War is an element. War, Obatala lives within war. So it's telling you that this war. Don't get confused by the name. So we're dealing with alchemy and the actions of man, but we're dealing with it in a hidden form on Mythos. And they've taken these gods and these Orishas and made them seem evil. But the basic thing that we're dealing with is the universal mind. And to understand the universal mind, you have to know that if you have man, you have war, you have to understand, why does man commit war? It's because of the universe. The universe that we live in is steadily changing, because the universe is what many metaphysicians would call a hologram. Something that is hidden, something that is being projected from another point of view. So we have to look at this. If you look into the Kabbalion, and you look into the things that the Kabbalion is saying, the Kabbalion written by the three initiates, it's trying to tell you that the universe, and it's talking about alchemy, the creation of the universe, with the elements, the universe and all the elements are enforced by your mind. And I know that this is a theory that most won't understand. How can you say, go from Yoruba to the Kabbalion? Well, you have to understand, the Yoruba is not just some mythos, black man and black woman. This is how they taught each other to live among each other through the mythos, to hide it from those who were coming to take it. So this is why the white theologians of old times had to take it and transform it into something else. When you're studying Zeus, you're getting a watered down version of Olorun. When you're studying Athena, you're getting a watered down version of Isis or Yemoja. So you're going to have to look at the real origin of these gods, regardless if they tell you that what we're telling you is true or not. You know it's true, because when you look it up, it's true. So don't listen to what they're saying, those who do support this white supremacy view on history. So we're dealing with this. So we're dealing with the mental creation of the universe. In the Kabbalion written by the three initiates, it says, the all can create in no other way except mentally, without either using material or else producing itself, which is also impossible. There is no escape from this conclusion of the reason, which is, as we have said, agrees with the highest teachings of the Illumined. Just as you may create a universe of your own in your mentality, so does the all create universe in its own mentality. When the Kabbalion is talking about the all, it's talking about the same substance in the universe that alchemy is talking about. That same hidden substance, that dark melanin, that dark matter, that same substance that CERN is trying to bring out, that same substance that the Yoruba and the Orisha is secretly speaking about. You're going to have to begin to understand this. This is not mythology. The words mean something. So don't let them tell you that the Yoruba is a demon religion. Look at this. If you look into the book by Michael Talbot called The Holographic Universe, it's talking about this projection image and how the theologians and the high illumined or the initiated of the now era do is they know these things. So they make those of us and those who are speaking within the knowledge of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad seem crazy. So if you don't come with their knowledge, they're always going to refute what you're saying. So you have to go into their books. So we're dealing with a book by Michael Talbot called The Holographic Universe. He says it is necessary to understand a little more about holograms. One of the things that makes holography possible is a phenomenon known as interface. Interface is the cross-facing pattern that occurs when two or more waves, such as waves of water, ripple through each other. So listen to me. Yemoja is the water, or the primordial ocean, or the birth womb of the earth, or the temple. Okay? Olerun is the kingdom. King is the highest form of the land. Metaphysically, a king can also be a high mind. A queen can also be a high-minded person. Dome, D-O-M, is if you go back long enough into the Latin root of the word, it means cranium or head or dome or skull. So when you're talking about kingdom, you're talking about high mind. Okay? Yemoja is the water. In Michael Talbot, The Holographic Universe, this is why we go from modern literary context to ancient mythology, because it's all the same. They've just taken our mythology and said, this is demon mythology. This is evil, but what we're telling you is exactly what your religions are telling you, but we want you to be our religion. This is how it's working on you. This is how they do it. We're not demanding any religions. We're just telling the truth of how the systems or the political religious systems work. It says in The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot on page 14 about interface. Interface is the cross-facing pattern that occurs when two or more waves, such as waves of water, ripple through each other. Yemoja, going back from Olekun, the ruler of the top to the water, from the top to the water, rippling and creating man. We know that we're mostly made up of water. We're birthed from water. When you're in the womb of your mother, you're in water. That's the same primordial substance of the universe, proving to you that the universe is in the body, in the mind. You've got to understand the metaphysical definition of all this mythology. So we're challenging those who believe that what we're teaching our people is wrong. Those who believe that what the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching is wrong. Those who believe in the root knowledge of what the minister Louis Farrakhan is teaching is wrong. Those who doubted Dr. Khalid Muhammad is wrong. Those who don't want to give Marcus Garvey and Frederick Douglass their respect, you're wrong. So if you want to prove that we're wrong and you want to come with your articles, come with your best scholars, come with your notes, come with your books, we've got the same books and more, come with it. We'll sit down and we'll have an intellectual dialogue. We don't have any time for nonsense. We don't have any time for childish behavior. We're trying to inform our people. So if you feel that what we're saying is wrong, come and challenge us.